Today, there is no news.
I checked the economic calendar this morning, and then a second, and then a third, and not a single scheduled event on the board for the whole week. And that leaves the market with the potential for one of two extremes. It's either going to be boom to the moon, or it's just going to be dull as dishwater. So let's see what plays out. Ahoy there, it's me, it's Phil. Hump day again already. And for some unknown reason, I did think I'd check the economic calendar this morning, which did send me down the rabbit hole of multiple different calendars. And apparently there's no news today. And when there's nothing on the board, it's always going to be one of two extremes. Dull as dishwater, or we're going to, go to the moon, Mars, or Pluto, or whatever the kids talk about these days. Given the whole week is the same, I'm expecting more of the same. I didn't really notice earlier in the week. I'm just getting back in after a vacation. So Monday, Tuesday, coming to Wednesday, it's probably going to be the same Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So dull as dishwater, maybe a little bit of directional movement, nothing exciting. But that said, it's not going to take much to move this market. One tweet could quite literally rock the boat. So 3 things on the table today. 7500s on SPX, why it's holding, and what unlocks at 7520. Where Crude is, Uncle Russell, Bitcoin sits, including the $88 tick on crude oil, and all 3 of those. And a little bit of a fun fact, the BBC ran out of news in 1930 in a very similar way, and we're also going to look at the premium popper setups that paid out yet again yesterday. So little is changing. We can see that I have updated SPX and Russell and the Dow with slightly smaller ranges, just because we are seeing a little bit of an uptick in the markets. I would guess that it's because of NASDAQ. NASDAQ seems to be leading the charge at the moment, and because of the AI sector, it's hot, then it's cold, hot, and it's cold. We have seen price go from the upper range down to the lower range. We're just catching the daily rising VWAP, so a little bit of buying pressure. Again, we may just see price push ever so slightly higher, and that could lift the other markets with it. Gold has already done this. We've gone from the range low to the range high, one of our 6 money making patterns. No surprise there. Bitcoin is starting to push out of its smaller range, and crude oil again has pushed out of that small consolidation. Again, we'll look at the details of both of those in just a moment. SPX first, we have the 30-minute chart. Again, it has been going sideways, as we can see here, just meandering since basically last Thursday, last Friday. But the bull swing mode is still on and activated. The percentage R that we can see here, we are in the extreme upper 20%, and rather than use it as a traditional overbought, oversold tool, I'm using it as an indication to say, hey, with a 30-period setting, we've got prices in that upper boundary, and we typically see with this setting a strong trending indication. So that's what we're seeing. It's supporting that bull move. 7500 is holding as that round number, which is basically the range high. Little bit of a bull flag just at the outside of that range. So again, if we do pop above that 7520 zone, I don't see any reason for us to not see price move back to the larger range, that 7560, 7580 zone, which unsurprisingly is the range target. Range target height of that range added to the breakout point gives us 7570. So all of these things align with each other quite nicely. So if we see the continuation higher, 7580, and if we push back below 7500, we can reevaluate for a move to lower back to the low end range and consider it a break back into that consolidation. Similarly, we're seeing the same thing on Uncle Russell. We've gone from the easy to see on the daily chart over here, top left. We're on the range low, we're almost at the range high. 3000 does seem to be sensible, which is just above the range high. We're already pushing towards there anyway. Same percentage R, signaling a stronger trending movement. So again, a push higher does seem likely. The overnight futures are just peeling off ever so slightly, so maybe a tiny gap lower. It's 0.1 to 0.3% of its normal range movement, so nothing exciting in the overnight range. So gap lower, trade high, it does seem most likely. Speaking of trading higher, we have seen $88 printed. Again, we had the breakout, the pullback, which we commented on last Friday on the day after I came back from a wonderful time in Capital. Yes, I'm going to keep mentioning it. Tough titties. But we got the breakout, pullback, war over the weekends, shrugged off, and again, the trend continues high. Again, the way to think about news is that it typically enhances what's already going to happen, or the lack thereof it, but it typically is an enhancer. We'd already seen price move high. You've got a nice trend, consolidation, trend breakout, pullback, continuation. This is a classic trending price behavior. $88 has been reached, not a DeLorean in sight, unfortunately, so we're just waiting to see where this market goes. Bitcoin is, again, it's continuing the grind. I might have to reevaluate the breakout assessment again if we can, we see this rising channel just evolve and morph ever so slightly. I'd like to see price get above 6,700 and then we can confidently say this is the breakout. But ultimately, there's nothing to do but wait. The trades are on. I'm just waiting for that push. Which brings us neatly onto my little fun fact of the day. Historically, there was a traditional no news day. There was things going on. There was a rebellion in India, there was a fire in Romania, things were unfolding. But because of holiday schedules in 1930, the BBC basically reported that there was no news because they had no news, nothing was coming in. Again, it doesn't mean that there wasn't anything going on, it just meant that there was nothing to report. So instead, they had 15 minutes of piano. Anyway, shall we play a game? It's not going to take much to move these markets, and if you've got the reference, it goes back to early 80s, 1983 War Games movie, where global thermonuclear war was on the table, and maybe a game of tic-tac-toe would bring us world peace. It just doesn't cut the mustard at the moment. So basically, the modern version is one tweet could actually move this market. So Premium Poppers, the payoff. Premium Popper is my more active day trading system. Two trades actually. We had a $140 locked in with $640 potential on the Russell. We actually landed the sweet spot on SPX, so we locked in a minimum profit and we were almost on the bullseye of the profit 10, which would have been just over $1,000. That would have been great. And ultimately the team is crushing it as usual in the Slack community, reporting wins on a regular basis. Bottom line is both the Russell and the SPX were basically transformed to guarantee those profits. So let's go and take a look at the actual charts. We've got standard stuff. We've got the opening range breakouts on both Russell on the left, Russell on the right, S&P on the left. Great scoring for the day on all of the setups. And we saw a nice trending move, and just after lunchtime, we actually saw price just grinding sideways. I actually had again with SPX just experimenting with a few different versions of the same system. So there's a little bit of luck involved, but the reality is that short strike was on an average day's move. So there should be no surprise there. The expected move for the day is where price stopped. So we managed to lock in the profit there. Well, it was me obviously, and managed to land that bullseye there. On the Russell, again, standard breakout setups, and again, locked in a profit. I actually did something a little bit different, which we'll see on the profit tent here. Locked in $140 on the option, so the initial spreads was taken in the usual way, but because we had that very fast trending movement, rather than transform it into a butterfly, you've got this really wide profit tent, so I can lock in profit with different strikes rather than the same short strike. Just getting this really wider profit tent. It's almost like a iron condor, for want of a better description, in its shape of this profile, but you've got this guaranteed profit no matter what happens. Ultimately, $140 locked in, potential for another 640. Again, we just landed outside of that profit zone. Again, not unsurprising for a trending day in fairness. SPX is a different kettle of fish. Again, locked in that same smaller price match. I think it was about $80 to $100. I can't quite remember what I locked in, but it was a small lock-in, and basically I mismanaged the lock-in. In fairness, there was potential for about 200 at one point to lock in. Again, I just was taking my eye off the ball. I'm experimenting with new versions of the same strategy all the time, especially as I'm in research mode. I'm constantly putting money where my mouth is. Ultimately, we locked in. I got what I wanted from a typical popper anyway, which is $50 to $80, and we can just see that we landed almost at the sweet spot. The sweet spot would have been 75.10 in this case. So we landed in that profit tent for about $930. So again, a nice little bonus trade at an average day's move. So it should really be no surprise that that's where it stopped. That's all from me. Happy trading. Once again, rules are ruling the roost. Less brain means you get more gain, and your trades will be smoother than a cashmere.